So it's always pretty awesome spending some time with lions. And I know I've said that before, but to be in the company of the Tsalala female and the bigger of the two plainscamp males is a pretty awesome place to be. Particularly up on this crest here, Ximpalapala Crest, because the views around here are spectacular. So, since the Tsalala female lost her cubs, she's spent a bit of time back on Londolozi, and we are hoping that she is going to be coming into heat pretty soon. And just the fact that the plainscamp males have been sticking hot on her tail for quite some time leads me to believe that she is either getting pretty close to falling into heat or she has just been in heat, and that would then mean she's likely to mate with these plainscamp males. But you're seeing every time she moves, this male gets up and follows her pretty closely. She's now urinated a couple of times, and the male's gone in there to sniff that. He's like snarled his mouth up, and that's known as a phlegm and grimace, exposing his teeth. But what that's doing is that's actually exposing an organ in the top of his palate. And so lions, or in fact most animals, have got an organ of Jacobson in the top of their palate, sort of just behind the incisors, or it is a vomeral nasal organ. And what that is designed to do is to pick up chemical properties in the air, more specifically in this case the hormone content of this lioness's urine. And he is then able to decipher exactly what reproductive state she is in, whether she's in heat or not, and essentially whether it's worth pursuing her to try and mate or not. And so if these two do then start to mate, hopefully she falls pregnant, and she then hangs around on Londolozi and gives birth to those cubs here, so that at least I get a chance to see them, because I didn't even get to see her last litter of cubs. So just having lions moving around on a crest like this is a pretty sensational place to be with lions. Having them walk right past a vehicle is no better experience than that, or exhilarating experience, apart from lions running past your vehicle like last week. They then have now settled down. This is the second sighting in the exact same area. maybe give or take a couple 100 meters. As well as, we know that Tsalala female is a pretty sizable female. She's got some good genetics and she is a larger than normal female. However, she is completely dwarfed by this plainscamp male, just highlighting his sheer size. And so should they mate and have some cubs, those are some pretty strong genetics going forward for her cubs to then carry. And now that summer's in full swing, the bush is teeming with life. From bird calls to cicadas, bugs, beetles, everything is just a hive of activity around here. And probably one of the highlights for me are the dung beetles, who are now moving around and have got an abundance of dung to collect. However, this little dung beetle is probably bitten off a little bit more than he can chew. And he's rolling down a treacherous gauntlet as he goes right past the male's nose. And tries to then roll the dung up the female's back, which of course he was not able to do. She then rolled over and seems to have squashed his dung ball. So he's going to have to pack it up and go and try and find some more dung to compact into another ball. So also, while we were curiously bumbling around the north, we then came across a large elephant bull. And as we were following him as he was feeding, we then bumped into a little flock of Southern Ground Hornbills, which are probably one of the more endangered species of bird around here. And that's mostly in part to them being tree cavity nesting birds. So they need a cavity within a tree to nest in. And so with, I guess, human encroachment into bushveld or wilderness areas, these larger trees are being removed, and so there's fewer nesting sites for these birds. On top of that, the female, when she lays her eggs, she normally will lay between 2 and 3 eggs. And the first chick to hatch then outcompetes or kills off its siblings or the later hatchlings. From there, the fledglings then take about 8 years to reach maturity. So it is a very slow growing, slow developing process for the Southern Ground Hornbills, making life for them a pretty challenging event. However, there are a number of different initiatives to try and help repopulate areas with Southern Ground Hornbills. And so just to see a large flock like this moving around is great. And to see one in the company of an elephant, as well as when we were with the Tsalala female and the plainscamp male, a whole flock came walking past there. Quite likely the same flock, but still just to see that they're moving around here and thriving is fantastic. Lastly, here's a little update on the Ximungwe female and her latest little cub. Spending time with these two is always a phenomenal place to be. But while you're watching this, try and see if you can notice whether this little cub is a boy or a girl. And just looking at her last few litters, she's raised 2 young males to independence, and in her 3rd litter, which was her last litter, there was 1 young male, 1 young female. Sadly, obviously those 2 didn't make it. So what do you think this one is? While you're trying to decide on that, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. Like this video, drop a comment below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all again next week.